Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta has increased the minimum wage by 14% to be implemented with immediate effect. However, the Kenyan Association of Manufacturers has criticized President Uhuru Kenyatta's move to increase the pay of lowest paid workers, saying it could lead to an increase in the cost of goods. For more on this, we're joined by Pradeep Purana, the Vice Chairman of the Kenya Association of Manufacturers. Pradeep, thanks very much for joining us. So in your news statement today, or news release rather, you point out the 13,674 minimum wage is far above places like Bangladesh, where you've got 5,719 sitting at the minimum wage, far above places like Ethiopia, where that minimum wage is 6,450. Of course, pretty much more than double places like Ethiopia. So give us your view on how this is likely to affect manufacturers right now in Kenya.
First, let me correct. We are not criticizing the President of Kenya about the decision that he has taken. This is an increase in minimum wage, and the government is right to have a minimum wage policy. What the Kenya Association of Manufacturing is pointing out is this can lead to a loss of a huge number of jobs, particularly in the apparel manufacturing sector, in the agriculture sector, floriculture, where Kenya is one of the largest exporters of flowers, which is a very labor-intensive industry, and many other manufacturing sectors where the chief input is labor cost. Mm-hmm. Now, labor cost per se is not the issue. What we are saying to the government is we have to address the cost of living. Why is Lesotho, which exports the world's largest T-shirts and is a very large employer of labor in the garment and apparel sector, or Ethiopia, which is up and coming now in the apparel manufacturing as well. Why are those countries cheaper? It is because the cost of food, the cost of electricity, housing, transport, all those are much lower than in Kenya. We need to address the basic infrastructure issues of Kenya, which can allow manufacturers to reduce the overall cost of living in this country and hence make our goods more competitive in the international markets.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, just according to reports, the manufacturing sector employs around 1 million people. And ultimately, many are saying that this could lead to mechanization, a greater drive to employ less people, given, of course, the cost push pressures that manufacturers are facing. So do you think that the government's drive right now to increase the minimum wage could ultimately be self-defeating?
It can be self-defeating if the inflationary spiral catches up without productivity increases. The Kenyan labor and the Kenyan manufacturing industry will shift to more mechanization and will reduce labor-intensive jobs if we don't increase and address the issue of labor productivity. Mm-hmm. Labor productivity, as I mentioned, depends on a number of input costing bases, as well as the training and the skills of our labor. These are areas that the government quickly needs to address jointly with the private sector going forward.
Mm-hmm. I mean, what can manufacturers do to increase and enhance productivity, to entice workers to work a little bit harder for each shilling earned?
It's a combination of training, skills development, and also the expectation of labor in this country. We need to address basic issues like transport to work, housing, meals and food. Those are not being addressed. Those are expensive. Those are issues which the government can participate in with the manufacturing sector, with employers generally, and have selective intervention. Every shilling or every dollar that is invested in maintaining jobs in the apparel sector, in the manufacturing industry generally, will have a multiplier effect and earn the government twice as much in revenue over a long period of time. Mm-hmm. This is something that needs to be addressed very quickly, selectively, to ensure that we do not lose our jobs in Kenya.
I mean, there have been reports of motor assembly plants relocating to South Africa, of cereal processing plants relocating to Zimbabwe. Those, of course, used to be based in Kenya. Is this a trend that you're seeing manufacturers having to shut shop in Kenya right now, or are these just isolated cases?
Quite right. There are about 22,000 jobs in the export processing zone in Kenya, which are at a threat of losing. The number of jobs in in the EPZ were much higher, about 40,000 until a few years ago. There are other 20,000 jobs in the garment manufacturing sector which are also under threat due to relocation to even Uganda, for example, which has far lower cost and higher productivity of labor than in Kenya. So this is a serious threat. Manufacturing sector can wind up and move in less than 4 months, and we are likely to lose a lot of jobs.
Mm-hmm. Ultimately, if that is the case and government does keep the increase of 14%, are you going to, or manufacturers are on average going to be able to pass these costs on, a higher cost to consumers?
Many industries are not going to be able to pass on costs, but let me once again come in. This is just one of the many factors. Increase in wages per se, starting today, are not the only issue that will affect jobs and job creation and sustainability of manufacturing industry in Kenya. It is a number of things. So yes, we want to keep jobs, we want to grow the jobs, we want to work with the government to find ways of ensuring that labor is productive, and the cost of living is adjusted so that the wages in real terms keep growing. Mm-hmm. At the moment, announcing an increment in wages without really addressing the cost of living is going to induce inflation, which is self-defeating, which will lose jobs, which will lose the manufacturing industry's attractiveness in this country.